In the state of Minnesota might be mainly on the presidential election and the battle for the state House of Representatives. But another key race could determine the battle of power in the state's Senate. In fact, there's a number of situations this year that could flip the Senate majority before the next legislative session. Valley News Team's Quinn Gorham breaks them down.
In the Minnesota Senate, all eyes are on Senate District 45 right now. Located in the East Twin Cities metro, its special election is just one situation that could determine the balance of power in the Senate next year. During the 2024 legislative session, the Minnesota Senate had a DFL majority of 34 members to the Republicans' 33. Former State Senator Kelly Morrison stepped down from her seat to run for Congress, leaving her seat vacant and triggering a special election. Needless to say, both parties have invested lots of time and energy into taking control of that seat. The Senate could also see a change in majority if Governor Walz is selected as vice president. The current Senate President Bobby Joe Champion would become lieutenant governor, opening up yet another seat and opportunity to take control of the Minnesota Senate. Both parties say they're aware of the stakes of each of the scenarios and are working hard to maintain that majority.
I want us to hold our majority so that we can continue to pursue things like clean water, affordable childcare, affordable housing, strong public schools, healthcare you can count on.
I mean, it's always a chess game in the Minnesota Senate. Since we got in 2016, it's always been one seat, more or less, that's been in play for the votes and for elections, special elections, different things going on.
There's a third situation, and that's if Senator Nicole Mitchell resigns or is expelled from the body. She's currently facing felony burglary charges, and a vacancy in her seat would cause a tie in the Minnesota Senate. Reporting in St. Paul, I'm Quinn Gorham.
Now, unlike the Senate, every seat in the Minnesota House is up for grabs this year, meaning the November election will obviously determine the majority in that chamber as well. We'll tell you how a local man is keeping a fundraiser created by Mark Knutson alive and how you can get involved in just 2 minutes.